Welcome, friends. This is Harshad Parekh inviting you to listen to some of my spontaneous short writings on philosophy, religion, psychology, spirituality, education, and nature. I hope you are able to listen in a very quiet environment in aloneness. This is audio tape number 6. Article 28. This is about the memories. This is what I wrote. Though a great deal of what is happening inside atoms is known, very little is known about undetected forces affecting our body and mind. The state of our consciousness changes very fast and it is beyond our perception. There are changes occurring in the empty space too, which are beyond our conceptual mind. This morning, many thoughts were coming. I do not have time to write down all of them. Whatever is written seems meaningless, immature, and false after some time. We can never know ourselves fully. We are aware of very few fleeting moments. So many words and half sentences come and go, which do not seem to have any significance. They rise like bubbles from the pool of memory and burst on the surface of awareness. What activates memories? It seems that we are not separate individuals. Our body and mind extend far beyond and overlap with those of others. Our body or matter is the condensation of energy. The energy density is greatest near the body, but it does not end at the boundary of the body. What happens here, that affects there, and vice versa. Last night, I was absorbed in reading a book about Niels Bohr, the great physicist. He struggled a lot to understand the nature of matter at atomic level. If it is so difficult to understand matter, how can the mind be understood, which is more subtle than matter? Probably the mind cannot be understood, but it can be seen through direct perception or awareness. Article number 29 is about intellect and intelligence. This is what I wrote. Logic is a tricky and slippery ground. You can use logic to prove what you like to prove, and you can also use logic to disprove what you don't like. Lawyers use it all the time to prove the right as wrong and the wrong as right with their intellect. If you enjoy eating meat, you will present all good things about eating meat, such as it gives you vitamin B12, etc. If you are sensitive to animals and birds, you will condemn meat eating. Krishnamurti used to tell students of Rishi Valley that they were like lawyers when students argued about eating of meat. But there is a dimension higher than intellect. It is called intelligence. Intelligence can see non-verbally very quickly what is true and what is false. Intellect cannot take one to intelligence, but from intelligence, intellect can function beautifully. People who live with intellect only will have many conflicts within themselves, which will express in outward human relationship. Article number 30. It is about Krishnamurti and time. This is what I wrote. A friend is completely convinced that Krishnamurti's approach is the correct one, and his job is to propagate this approach among traditionalists who use methods of meditations. For this, my friend keeps on repeating Krishnamurti's sentence that through time, that is method and effort, you cannot go to the timeless truth. Logically, it is true. But how many people reach the timeless dimension through Krishnamurti's approach? Maybe very few, but in Krishnamurti's view, no one. Now, how do you look at Krishnamurti's statement before he passed away that hundreds of years were required to produce such a body and brain like his? He said, "You will not find another body like this or that supreme intelligence operating in a body for many hundred years." Clearly, some kind of preparation with goodness and humility is required if a person is deeply interested in having intelligence. Understanding Krishnamurti with intellect is harmful, and you may find many contradictions in his teachings. It is not a matter of following Krishnamurti and repeating his quotations that will help. One has to take a journey within oneself with openness, curiosity, and honesty to look at oneself as one is. If a person is prepared to take such a journey, he may feel extraordinary newness in his life. His life will become simple and free from conflicts and divisions. I have a high regard for Krishnamurti, whose teachings opened a new way of looking, listening, and learning. But to follow him blindly is against his teachings. Many such teachers have lived on this planet and continue to live. Article number 31 is about Krishnamurti's death and suffering. This is what I wrote. After reading the last part of Krishnamurti's biography, which came some years after his death, I was said that K had to suffer much pain, had to take opium to relieve pain, and there was anxiety about the future of his teachings and schools and foundations. When he was in good health, he used to say that one can step into death very easily. But this was difficult for him. This is factual information provided by Mary Lutyens in her biography of Krishnamurti. After reading this biography, I felt that one must never claim freedom forever. What happens in future we do not know. Krishnamurti never imagined that he would suffer from cancer. We are not the master of our body and mind. Article number 32, it is about time and transformation. This is what I wrote. To make a good pot from clay, it is necessary to prepare the clay by removing sand, stones, and other impurities. In the same way, to be good and free human being, the body and mind must be prepared. The body and mind needs to be purified so that immense creative energy can flow. This was going on in the life of Krishnamurti as reported in various biographies written by people who knew him well. The process was going on in his body and brain for many years. It was very painful and Krishnamurti had no control over this. Just understanding Krishnamurti's teachings at verbal intellectual level is not enough. One needs to be free from impurities of the mind like fear, anger, jealousy, conflicts, etc., to see things clearly, to feel goodness and love, which do not fade with time. Article number 33 is about Mr. Alec Padamsee. This is what I wrote. Mr. Alec Padamsee, a well-known stage actor, spoke in the Seniors Assembly on September 27, 1988. It was a remarkable speech full of wisdom and humor. It was difficult to control laughter listening to his stories, and each of these stories had wisdom in it. He began the speech by telling a story which influenced him as a boy. It was about an Arabian merchant and death meeting each other on a street in a city market. The death raised his hand in surprise to see the merchant, and the merchant was frightened. He ran to his brother's house. His brother gave him the fastest horse to escape to Samaria, a town 50 miles away. Then the brother went to see the death to scold him for frightening his brother. The death said, "I did not frighten your brother by raising my hand. I was surprised to see him here because I had an appointment with him in Samaria." This story made Alec believe in destiny. But later on, in his college days, he discarded the belief. His professor spoke about seeing the world with clarity. Clarity requires focus. Education provides the focus. To focus means to gather all energy at a single point. To see future, one must have clarity. Details are important. God is in details. Alex spoke about the clarity of Richard Attenborough. He learned many things while working with him. Richard had clarity, focus, great regard for minute detail, planning ahead, etc. Finally, Alec told a story of an actor who was totally disorganized. He used to forget the lines he had to speak on stage. So he became jobless. No one wanted to give him any part to play in theaters. Finally, an agent found a job for him. He had to speak only one line in the opening scene. Ha, is that the canon I hear? He accepted the job. He had to rush to the theater. There was not much time. He hired a taxi, kept on repeating the line he had to speak, and finally, when he rushed to the stage, he forgot the lines, and seeing the cannon and hearing the blast, he asked, "What is that?"